This computer. Good morning, everyone here at the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this and listening. Today, we have a great guest, Yona Weiss. He is a master in the cost seg space and actually a lot of other spaces. He is a LinkedIn master. He networks like no one else I know, and he knows anyone that knows anything about anything related to real estate. So thank you for being with us, Yona, and for participating and giving us your time.
Pleasure to be here, Johnny. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Fantastic, man. I see you are actually, you led a LinkedIn challenge for a lot of people on LinkedIn recently, and that has motivated me to step up my virtual or my social media presence. Personally, I'm kind of a LinkedIn guy, little less Facebook. What's been your take on kind of your favorite social media presence? Where do you like to spend time, or where do you feel like it's most fits your personality?
I've been, biggest on LinkedIn for many, many years and still am. I think that's my biggest focus. Certainly dabble in some of the other social media platforms. In fact, there's a brand new one, relatively new that started, a good friend of mine started. It's called Bizfluence. And that's kind of an interesting new startup that's similar to LinkedIn in certain ways, meaning it's a professional networking platform, but it's more focused on the B2B. And so you'll have a lot of opportunities there building in the app itself to actually transact and do business one to the other. So that's really cool. But yeah, LinkedIn has always been my favorite simply because it's more professional. And I'm not, even on Facebook and Instagram and the other things that I partake in, I literally just use whatever content I use on LinkedIn for those platforms. So I'm not really, my real friends in life are not on Facebook. So they're just like my business and LinkedIn acquaintances, et cetera, that have kind of flowed over into the other platforms.
Nice. Yeah. That BizNet, is that actually active right now? So I could go join it if I wanted to, or is that still in kind of a beta stage?
No, they passed the beta stage. It's called Bizfluence, like a combination of business and influence, and with a Z, B-I-Z, F-L-U-E-N-C and E-C-N, whatever, Bizfluence. And
type it up.
They did great. They did a couple of rounds of funding and did a whole beta stage for about 6 to 9 months and really ramped it up pretty quickly. So pretty impressed by the platform itself. It's still in, I would say still infant stages, but it is has a lot of potential. And I've met, like I said, the founder is a good friend of mine. So I've met with him and I've sat with him and I've invested in it as well. And I've sat with him on many occasions to discuss, the potential and the opportunities they're trying to build out there. And it sounds very, very promising.
Amazing, man. Yeah. So real, I know you have a lot of presence online, but just for our audience, maybe the people that are new to you, can you give us a quick background of, where you grew up, where you're from, your history, and then, kind of just step us through those first, number of years in your life and how you ended up here.
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Southern California. So Los Angeles, if anyone knows where that is, big city, yes. Moved out, went to college in San Diego and basically left Southern California about 20 years ago or so. But it's always, kind of have that laid back, relaxed attitude about me, and it's kind of led me throughout life. But I was a teacher for many years, and until about 6 or 7 years ago, that's what I was doing full time. I was studying and teaching and really just involved in community involvement. Had a nonprofit that I raised money for, and loved life. I have a family, 6 kids, and I enjoy spending time with them. That's really my main focus in life is, just trying to provide for them and being the best husband and father I can be, and teacher, really, because that's kind of my nature of who I am and what I do in all aspects. And like I said, about 6, 7 years ago, I found real estate because I was looking for something. I was looking for something a little bit different. And a couple of friends of mine were doing different things in real estate, and just kind of spoke to them. And I don't know, one thing led to the other. And I was doing mortgages. I was doing fix and flips. I was doing stuff. And then I found this cost segregation thing and this company, Madison, that I work for about 5 years ago. And it literally it made so much sense at the time. I was looking for an opportunity and it just presented itself, and they were looking for the same thing that I was basically looking to do. And I've used my teaching skills over the past 5 years or so, like I said, to become the, kind of leading expert in the cost segregation space, which is a very kind of unique niche tax strategy for real estate owners. And, I've done that through, like you said, social media, networking, and podcasting. And it's really been an incredible journey.
That's awesome, man. And I guess I had this presumption. Well, I've actually two things. First thing, and that I did notice like you were like a super chill dude. Like Yona has like this really laid back vibe, and I didn't know that, of course, that, and this is probably just me projecting that you were from Southern California, but like that makes so much sense. Like, oh, he's got this chill vibe, he's this, this Jewish guy, but then he's like this super chill. So that's hilarious. And then of course, then the, how I didn't know that, realize I was like assuming like you'd been in real estate, for, I don't know, decades or a decade and a half, or I don't know, something, a long time, and so that's kind of encouraging when you see someone, that like you just decided, and then also, with this, relatively short time, like you said, 6 or 7 years, and then you've seen, grown, and you've tremendously, well known in the space, and done, and presumably have done well, and had success. So that's really exciting and also encouraging in its own way. Like, you don't need to. You have been born, like this, whenever you were born, you can get into this and focus and get traction.
Absolutely right. It's amazing. And I think a lot of people who are successful in the real estate space and industry come from other endeavors beforehand. A lot of people, especially now we talk about the syndication space and people raising capital and stuff, have successful business ventures or other things beforehand. But for me, I've certainly felt that it's been inspiring to me. I saw others doing the same thing, that in a relatively short period of time, you could actually get a lot of traction, a lot of presence on social media. And I would, be remiss to say that has been a huge help to do that. But more than anything, it's really just about adding value. And it's kind of cliche to say add value, just add value everywhere. But, I've learned a tremendous amount from Gary Vaynerchuk and his marketing methodology, which is just add value nonstop, just help people, go out of your way, and you'll get to wherever you need to get to. And the more you do that, the faster you'll get there. And so that's been kind of my main focus. And I think it's shown through. But I'd love to be that walking testimony that this can be done. You can do it in a relatively short amount of time.
And I would like to just drill into that a bit, because I typically go with whatever interests me, and that is a piece that is very there's a lot to unpack there. And when you say add value, that's let's talk about why you've been successful. So you mentioned that you like to teach, and let's kind of deconstruct it, if you would, of how did that then parlay into the success you've had online and other spaces. How did the linkage of you like to teach, and then like you just mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, and then that observing what he did, and then kind of combining that, and you have synthesized your own persona and this and that. Break that down for us, because that is, as a capital raiser myself and starting a fund, those things aren't just trivial things. Like they're really, really important. So let's get strategic, let's get tactical, and let's kind of pick this apart.
100%. It really comes back to the fact that, especially with raising capital, in any business you're in sales. And this is something I picked up from Gary Vee many, many years ago, is that everyone, no matter what you do, in some respect or another, you're in sales. Okay. But people don't like to be sold to or sold at. What they do like is to make connections with real people. They like to, have that relationship. And even people won't admit that. Like, I don't need more friends. I don't need more relationships. But really, they want that human connection. And especially when it comes to an area where people may not know a lot about. Okay, let's take syndication. Let's take, investing. People may not know a lot about, the specifics of that real estate deal, or the specifics of the returns on investment, or whatever it is. If you use, and for me, this was with cost segregation and also with raising capital as well, but if you use your skill set and your knowledge base, and you can teach other people, that is the best way, in my opinion, to sell. Okay. Now, obviously you have to have that, something to sell in order for that to work. But
of course,
in the end of the day, people will look at you as the expert, And then when they want to do that thing, and when you approach them, hey, by the way, I just taught you all about this thing called conservation. Or I just taught you all this thing about this fund and this investment. By the way, here's an offering. Here's something we have. Who do you think they're going to go to? To you that just taught them everything they know about it, or to some random other person who approaches them that they never met and never learned anything from? Because you've added value first, and because you've approached that as, what can I do, to help this person and to really teach this person and to give them from my knowledge, and doing it, by the way, without the focus of literally for the purpose of them coming back to you. No, you really want to have that genuine kind of altruistic approach of, I want to give, I want to help, I want to teach. And with the knowledge that, they probably will come back to me, but not necessarily doing it for that sake. So that's kind of the approach that I've taken. And this can apply to so many areas in life. And I've seen it work, wonders with me and with many others as well.
That's really good, man. And then breaking that down, just one more piece there. So like, you kind of were speaking to that, almost the attitude you have, like before you like get in front of a computer or talk to anyone, you've set your mind, you've said, this is the attitude, this is the spirit that I'm going to have when I do these things. And then when you engage or you share things, it's genuine, and it's, it's from an authentic spot. So, but good.
Yeah, no, it is. It's also, it's somewhat of it's a psychological thing also, because when you give something to someone, there's like this mental law of reciprocity that people want to give something back, right? But they don't necessarily have anything to give back, right? The most common thing that people say when I get off a call with them is like, well, how can I help you, right? Is there anything I can do for you? Yes. And the truth of the matter is, that's a hard question sometimes to answer, all right?
It's all about awkward. It's like you want to say like, oh no, there's nothing, and,
exactly.
But it's kind of an awkward question. It's like, and I've been telling to that question, people are saying like, well, can I do anything? Like just us talking, that was it. Like that was literally it for us to have a conversation. That's all I was wanting.
So you know what I do sometimes? I flip it around, and when someone asks me, is there anything I can do to help you? I'll flip it around and be like, yeah, actually, tell me what there is that you need. Because helping you is really what helps me the most, And so, but people have that psychological thing. Like, I want to help you. If you've given me something, right? You've taught me something. You've provided value for me. I want to give you something in return, but people don't know what that is. So when you give them an opportunity, you basically share them and allow them to kind of fill that. But again, when you have something that you actually can offer to them, which is, whether it's investing, they can give you their money to invest with, right? You can be the steward of their, that's something that people want to do. So again, it comes back to the point of add value first, and then, you can sell afterwards or whatever.
Absolutely. So those are the kind of like mindset things and, kind of underlying, like you say, psychological ideas. Mm-hmm. This is something I'm struggling with, I'm sharing this. So when I am trying to establish the knowledge, share knowledge, and then I'm also learning myself, how did you start sharing that knowledge and that value? So like, I'm going to make my first online gift of knowledge share or something like that. And I'm going to give some expertise or convey some expertise. How did you break that down, Yona? So that's something that I'm struggling with, is like, oh, I can just like ramble on about taxes or this or that or whatever. I'm trying to be focused. I'm trying to get specific, but also I need to have that value. So what is that offering that I need to present on the weekly or the daily or whatever? How did you kind of step into that as you grew in your own knowledge?
It was really through social media at first, and then podcasting second. And so before I started my own podcast, which was only, about 2 years ago, I was a guest on hundreds of podcasts. And so to me, being a guest, and that combined with the social media, has been the greatest ability to be able to provide that. You ask, how do you share that knowledge? How do you give that? How do you add value? Through teaching what you know. That's number one. And so the easiest channels to do that are through social media, which is, people think about, well, what do I post? What do I say? Johnny, from the 10-day challenge, it is challenging. That's why it's called the challenge, right? It's challenging to come up with material to post every day and to be consistent with it and come up with new stuff. But when you're just sharing your journey or sharing knowledge that but again, sharing your journey is the greatest way. Like, I can being on a podcast is one easy way to get a bunch of pieces of content, right? So whether you know it as being a host of a podcast, right? When you host a podcast, you release a new episode, you share that new episode. You have maybe a little clip, a little soundbite, maybe a little video, maybe a little image, whatever it is, you have content because you've created that podcast. But when you're a guest on a podcast, the same holds true. And there are plenty of people out there who are looking for guests. I mean, think about like people like Whitney Sewell and, people that have daily podcasts.
Daily. Holy crap.
Exactly.
Holy smokes. Yeah.
You need, they're looking for guests constantly, right? And they have people back all the time as, as repeat guests because they're constantly looking for content. But you as the guest can then use that and share that journey. So if you just had a sales call, if you just had a meeting, if you had attended a conference, if you had any interaction whatsoever, that can create a piece of content that you can share, a piece of knowledge, something that you learned from that you can share with other people, and guaranteed someone will get something out of that. And so the focus doesn't necessarily have to be with how can I affect the most people, right? And how can I get my message out there to the most people possible at once? Really, the focus should be how can I put my message out there and focus out there that I can maybe help one person. Okay. Yes. And so if you help one person every day, that's really where you're going to get the most benefit out of anything, whether it's social media, whether it's, podcasting. Focus on the one, and then many will come.
I like that idea there, Yona. And then if you let's just say you had this goal of helping one person a day, after a year and you had 365 plus people like standing there in line, that's quite a crowd. That's not a small group of people. And so that's a powerful concept to strive for if you kept that as a, monthly goal or yearly goal or whatever it was.
Absolutely.
So we're going to pivot a little bit here. So what, as 6 or 7 years ago, when you were seeking to get into this new space, and then you look back now to those early years, what is something that you wish you would have known then that you realize now, and you could have tell your younger self, or could have ramped up or read this book or done that activity or whatever it is? What are a couple two things? What are two things that come to mind with looking backwards?
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, I would say getting assistance, like getting a virtual assistant earlier. That would have definitely helped accelerate things faster.
Yes,
because just doing too many things on your own is never the best use of your time. So finding the best uses of your time and then delegating and handing off, activities to others who can do that for you. That's one thing I would have definitely done much earlier. Yes. And the other thing I would say is, is really doubling down on LinkedIn, even though I did. I mean, we're going back 4 or 5 years ago already that I really started getting active and posting daily on LinkedIn. But even still, I still was, hesitant on it because it was an investment of time, number one, and it was an investment of effort without the knowledge of what was going to come out of it. But looking back, I see that the more time and effort I put into it, the more I've gotten out of it. And so nowadays I spend a lot more time in it just because I get so much out of it. And so it's kind of at a point where, it keeps growing exponentially. And so had I started that earlier, definitely probably would have grown even faster.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, you have kind of a asymmetric return on your time, but then we both know, and I'm at that stage right now where it's well, I need to spend time in here, and you're just planting the seeds, and the seeds have not sprouted. There's nothing, just dirt. And it's is this going to grow? Is there going to be a return on this? I have a family to take care of, et cetera, et cetera. So it's encouraging to hear, your story, and which is one of the reasons we asked that question is what are some, can we skip a little time here? Can we do some things that accelerate that without having to maybe learn it as quite the hard grinding way that maybe you went through? So pivoting just a little bit more into the capital raising space, and that would be what are some techniques or some ideas, and maybe just simply leveraging your platform to connect with, some people that you found success in capital raising from? I would call them high net worth folks, maybe just people that were outside your network, or maybe people you actually know. What are what are two ideas there that you have, or a couple ideas or concepts that you've used or seen used to connect with these people successfully?
So I've been a little bit in the capital raising space, and it's something that I am pivoting into more and more of as time goes on, just because of the network and because of opportunities to work with other investors. But I haven't gone full time into that. But I will share with you, as you asked, a couple of tips or a couple of things that I have seen that have been helpful to do that. And really, one of the things is something I got from my days in nonprofit work, where I was fundraising for a nonprofit that I started. This goes back 10, 15 years ago.
Yes.
Which, it translates a lot into the capital raising space, because we are all, I shouldn't say everyone, but I certainly am. And I think a lot of people are hesitant to ask other people for money, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
It's a hard thing to do. And it's something we have to kind of get over. And so really changing your mindset and not asking people for money, but really offering them an opportunity and offering them something that really they're going to get out of it. And so when you, from a nonprofit and philanthropy perspective, it's a little bit different, but the same thing holds true.
Just to ask a question, was that a little easier? Cause it's not really for me. I mean, it's my nonprofit, but it's just it's kind of for a good cause. Was that easier to kind of request funding?
It's actually harder. It's
harder.
Okay. It's harder because, people, when they're giving, unless someone is a fundamentally, altruistic person and a philanthropist, they're not very easily going to part with their money unless they see they're going to get something out of it. Right.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's just the reality that we live in. And there are exceptions. I definitely know many exceptions, but I would still say they are exceptions. However, when you offer someone an investment and show them how their money sitting in a bank or in stocks is making, 3% or 4% return or whatever it is, or negative returns because of inflation, and you have an opportunity to give them, a relatively low risk investment opportunity that can actually give them more money and allow them to, create their retirement that they want to, as opposed to dipping into their retirement. So there is a way to frame it. Instead of asking people for money, again, it's just about framing it in a way that you're offering someone an opportunity that is ultimately going to help them much, much more than it's going to help you, for sure.
Right. That's true. Yeah. So that's one idea, or one concept you found. You have another one for us.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one is, and again, we spoke about this. I don't want to hit this, over the head too much.
Yes.
But going back to social media, and everyone can kind of think about this themselves. Okay. When you look at your social media feed, right? When you see people just telling you about, inspiration or trying to sell you something or telling you about this deal and that deal and whatever, you kind of get a little bit bored about it, a little bit turned off, right? Yes. But when I go back to what we talked about at the very beginning, what people really want is they want a connection. They want a personal connection with someone. So you should spend time on social media, but not necessarily talking about investing or talking about the deals that you're raising money for. Okay, you certainly should occasionally when the right opportunity comes. But if that is all that you're talking about, or even the majority of what you're talking about, people are going to get turned off, because what they really want, they don't want the investment. They want that personal connection. And so they're going to invest with someone that they like and that they know and that they trust. And you've heard this 100 times from other people as well. But that's why I want to say, share on social media about yourself, about things that you've gone through, about, again, sharing your journey. What did you do? Not just sharing what you did today. I don't know, Instagram, whatever, just share what you had for breakfast or something.
Lunchtime.
Right? You can, I'm sure there are people that like that, but on LinkedIn, the best way to do it, it's a professional way. Give people, tips on sales, tips on communication, tips on, if you are good at Excel, for example, share some tips on Excel. Everyone uses Excel, and some people are really good at it, some people are not. And those who are not are going to like those tips. I'm like, wow, that just will save me 5 minutes every day, right? Or whatever it is. Share those tips and share things about yourself. Again, you don't have to get super personal, but people will get to know you through you sharing content. And that's really the thing, because in the end of the day, when the opportunity does come that you have an investment, they're going to look to you to go with.
That's from your guidance and a few other people that have been following on the platform there, Yona, is I've actually been a little more perceptive, more, more when watching myself. So when I'm scrolling and I see something that grabs my attention, like what was it, or what is it about this post that is, it's engaging for me. Sometimes it's just like entertaining, or it's funny, or this or that. More often though, that, as from a professional perspective, which is kind of like where LinkedIn shines and people gravitate towards, is that, okay, here's 3 books that I read, or the podcast in this area, or the list of this, and those things just pull you in just like that. And yes, we have a short attention span and we don't have a lot of time to look at each post, but those things I totally agreed. Your guidance and other people's teaching guidance, whatever the word is, has really attuned me to that, and also, helped me to try to add, work more on that and start, contributing more to that area as well. So that's something I've learned myself in the last 6 months.
Awesome.
Okay. So you moved to, I can't remember if we talked about it actually, but it was pre or now. So you're in Jerusalem now. You're spending most of your time, basically you're leveraging the power of Zoom and LinkedIn and just all online here. Is most of your work in your efforts focused in the U.S. still, or are you kind of diversifying across the globe, if you would?
No, absolutely. 100% still focused in the US. It's just about living where you want and enjoying life to the fullest. I think that's really what it was mostly about. But yeah, all of my business is focused, and I still travel back and forth quite a bit, but the business is 100% focused in the States. That's what I know. That's what works. And will that change in the future? Who knows? But currently that's what it is. And it's just really about working remotely. I mean, like when COVID hit, it was like everyone was working from home anyways. So it just was made the most sense. And hey, by the way, you have no idea where a lot of people that you're talking to live, right? So it's just about, if you can keep up to the schedule. The time zone is the hardest challenge, because it's a 7-hour time difference from Eastern time. But so, that's the hardest part. But, everything that I do is online basically. So phone calls, emails, social media, et cetera. It can be done anywhere.
Yeah. What other investments, if you can share here, Yona, have attracted you, have intrigued you? I think I've heard a few things from a few folks. You're obviously, yes, cost segregation is in the multifamily space, and many things have been posted about that. What other areas interest you, and then maybe might interest other people for them to kind of provide a little guidance here, what they should be perhaps looking at, considering, or just of interest?
Sure. I've invested in a few other asset classes besides multifamily. Self-storage is one that I like. I've seen some great returns from it. And
yes,
mobile home parks also, RV parks, in fact, is something that's kind of getting a lot more attention these days. Mobile home communities and RV park communities type things. They have great tax advantages as well with the cost segregation, like every asset class does. Even more so than multifamily. So that's one thing people should be looking at. I've also invested in a couple, businesses, some startups that I kind of believe in and see the vision, knowing the founders, and just trying to support friends on the one hand, but on the second hand, like really seeing the opportunity, because, yes, it's a little bit of a higher risk investment.
Yes.
So not necessarily telling everyone to do that. Speak with your financial advisor or whoever is giving you guidance. But, but the opportunity is, 10x or 100x of, potential, as opposed to what some, more lower risk investments might return.
Let's talk about that for real quick. And this friends and family thing, we know a lot of people start out there. I'm in that lane right now, and also talking to, other people with, high net worth folks as well, but definitely, speaking to friends and family. What's been your recommendations and guidance there for folks as you've asked your counsel? Like, how do you engage? How do you persuade people? How do you know, what's that you're asking, friends or family to invest with you, and obviously there is a risk. So what's been some of your recommendations in that area?
It's a really delicate delicate topic.
Delicate word. I like that word. Yes.
There's no real, I guess what I would say may not work for everyone, but it really depends more than anything else on your relationship with the family members. Education is key. So just, there are some family members I've told about the real estate investing, and they just don't get it. And they're like, okay, whatever, like you do your thing, like that's fine. But others, if you just share with them, again, your journey, whether that's, hey, this is what, well, guess what, hey, I'm starting a new business, I'm starting a new company, I'm starting, invest in a fund or whatever it is. And then just kind of share with them opportunities. They may not be interested right away, but eventually it may come up. Like, oh, by the way, a family member, told me, oh, by the way, you started this real estate thing. You should talk to my good friend or my college roommate, whatever, that he's also involved in real estate. And that may come with a, good connection. So you may not be able to raise money from your family or your friends right away, if ever. But if they see the value in what you're providing, they may eventually decide to. But it's always a good idea to just keep the lines of communication open, obviously, and share with them what you're going through, because you never know what that opportunity might lead to.
Yeah. So have you had just to make this personal, have you had some, conversions of family or friends that were like kind of agnostic or skeptical, and then they've like, said, hey, then they've went in with you? Do you have any stories there?
No, not yet. The only ones that I have had success with were those who had experience with real estate investing previously. And then like, because of me and what I was doing, they're like, okay, this looks like a good deal. We'll come in with you on this.
Well, I think it's an important note to make, because I'm also in that same area. I've been, sharing, with friends and family. Initially it was a little bit like, amateur on my part, like, oh, like maybe like I was excited, maybe they'd want to come in, Then my wife and I learned eventually, like, it's just all about just sharing. And, if somebody wants to have some education or have an explanation, make sure we know what we're talking about, and then just share that. So yeah, same thing here is friends and family, not much there. No fish in that pond yet. So still trying, but yeah, nothing yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So we spoke through your journey, and then what is the future look like for Yona, for this year, and then also just some goals that you want to hit in the coming let's say 2 years.
Yeah, the one thing that I am focused on, I touched on a little bit before, is that transitioning a little heavier into the capital raising space for some deals. Like I said, I've done some before, but in talks right now about starting a fund and being able to partner with some other, sponsors that I'm close with at the moment. So that's probably the biggest thing that's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months, I would say.
Is your fund going to be, and I'm starting a fund as well. Maybe I shared that with you a while ago or something, but maybe not. But anyway, what is, will it be focused in multifamily, or is it going to be closed or open-ended or SPV? Give us a little details there, at least these initial talks, if you know.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be focused on multifamily.
Okay.
That I know. It may involve multifamily as well, but some of the operators and people that I'm talking with are investing in some other asset classes that are just doing much better in terms of the returns, and so that's where I'm going to be focusing my efforts.
Yeah. And is it going to be like a closed fund with a set amount and at a certain time, or is it going to be more open-ended, like an evergreen?
I think at the beginning we're going to do a closed fund, and then we'll see from there.
Sure.
See how it works.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting, man. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. I'm hopefully I'll see some of the journey that you'll share with us as we go along. I'm talking to lots of people there's a lot of interest in the fund space across the board. So, you talk to people and like, hey, I'm starting, people, like share, like, tell me all that you got, I was like, well, I mean, there's like lots of ways of doing it. And there's all these people and you go through the details of what and you have to share. Like I tell people straight up, like there's more that I don't know than I do know here, but it's an exciting spot to be in. I got great mentoring and coaching and network background or a networking background. So that's really the only way I know how to work through that. Just like with anything, you got to start at the beginning and grow into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, sweet, man. So what's the best way for folks to get in contact with you? Like LinkedIn, I think we spoke about that. You're really, really powerful. You have a website. I know you have an awesome podcast. If you could just, share those things with us, that'd be good.
Sure.
And maybe some additional items that we don't know about yet. Maybe a book, maybe you got a big book coming out. We don't know.
Yeah, nothing to that extent yet. Best place to find me is, like you said, on LinkedIn. Definitely mention that you heard us on this podcast, and you can also go to YonaWeiss.com. Really simple, just my name, and you can find out about the podcast and everything else that's going on, investing and whatnot.
Sweet. Well, we thank everyone, all the listeners here at the Investing Stuff You Should Know podcast. We thank you for spending some time. We know that Yona is a great source of knowledge and very wise, and he's a good educator as well. So I encourage you to reach out to follow him on the social media sites. And Yona, thanks one more time for hanging with us here.
A pleasure. Thank you.